stay cool.
Hi, I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to the Slippery Slope. So today I'm going to be joined by Bryan from Men of Faith Ministries. Bryan is a fellow Queenslander who I've just gotten to know from YouTube, and it's been great getting to know Bryan. And anyway, I'm just going to bring him in here, and if you're at home, put your hands together for Bryan, Man of Faith Ministries. I think we're going to have a great conversation. Or we are. Don't think we are. We are going to have a great conversation today. Bryan, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you, Joe?
Yeah, very good, very good. Thanks very much for joining me. I do appreciate. I was just saying for the recording that I really I've only met you because of YouTube. Uh,
Yep.
and your input, a lot of the comments that you put on, and I've been watching your, especially your little shorts, the 1 minute daily devotionals that you put up. Um,
Yep.
yeah, very cool. It's very cool to see you doing all that. So that's the only reason why we kind of know each other is because of YouTube. So it's been good to, but we've had a good chat and that, so it's been good. So, but first off, can you tell people who you are and like what you're doing? What you're doing? It's good to hear about your street ministry stuff.
Okay. My name's Brian. I operate or co-operate a street ministry in a regional Queensland town. And what we do, it's called Let Hope Arise Incorporated. And what we do is we serve, cook, and provide meals and spiritual assistance for anywhere up to 250, 300 people a week in this town. We're expanding into other towns as well. We're totally privately owned. We're not part of church, but all of our volunteers are from all different churches, which is great because we are actually getting all different churches coming together because we can't get them to come together officially because they all want to do their own things. But these people with Christian hearts are coming together to do this, and we're finding it. The need now is it's growing. We're finding that caravan parks, or with the cost of living, caravan parks are charging up to $300 a week for a patch of grass for people to pitch a tent on. If a homeless person wants to go and have a shower at a caravan park, they're getting charged up to $20 for one shower and things like that. So they're people sort of profiteering off of other people's misery, which I don't like. But we're basically on the streets to help people, and that's what we're doing. Thank the Lord for that. But yeah, it's in. I've been doing that now for probably 4 years. I've been on the streets. It gets hairy at sometimes, and dealing with people who are, suffer mental illness and suffer drug addiction that our health system, especially Queensland Health, have just sort of cast aside. They don't want to do anything for them. And that's what's happening, I think, with our federal government, with the cost of living, with the rentals and power bills and things like that. It's all going down the toilet, and it needs to change.
It's it amazed me. I actually did. I was reading a few different articles the other day. I thought, well, I'd like to get more of your input about this, knowing what after you'd already told me what you do and the people that you're feeding. If I can just tell you something that had come up, another article I had seen.
Yeah.
And this is talking about the Moreton Bay Shire. This is from
Yes.
ABC. It says homeless people in Moreton Bay Shire say they've been left with nowhere to go as a crackdown on rough sleeping continues. I read the bigger report on it the other day, but so tents and possessions have been removed by council rangers a month after the council made it illegal for the homeless to sleep or camp on public land. Look, I kind of I understand where the council are coming from because like you go down to those areas and some people have kind of just kind of taken over in some ways, taken over areas, okay, that are public spaces. However, at the
Yeah.
same time, it feels like it's a bigger problem than this is a problem that our governments have created. I think, it might be bigger than that. And I think you've probably got a better understanding of that than I have. So it feels like if you can just say our society has created this problem, and then it's kind of just been dumped on, and now the councils are just taking a hard line stance on it. And I'm not a fan of councils, so sometimes I wonder if I'm just a bit biased against them. But how are you finding things if you're working on the ground? How do you
Yep.
see it? How do you see it?
Well, we've had meetings with the mayor and the council in this regional town. We're getting the homeless people in tents and caravans. They're being threatened with sort of up to $8,000, seven and a half, $8,000 fines if they don't move on from the rest areas and things like that. But there's never any suggestion on where they should go. Most of them don't have transport. But when the council comes in and takes everything their own, takes their tents, their clothes, their toiletries that they have to try then to go and find all this new stuff to just to survive. It's the basics. It's the things they need to survive. Understandably, some of them make an absolute mess of where they are camping. And we always try to say to them, look, if you're going to look after your area, keep it tidy, then there's a chance the council sort of might turn a bit of a blind eye for a little while at least. But councils in Queensland, they're like Brisbane started it with Musgrave Park, where they started booting them out and things like that. I was reading the same story about Moreton the other day, and there was another one story that came up where they were going to start using bulldozers to clear the land. Now, that's not going to solve anything. The governments, the councils, they're not doing anything to put into the problem to try and alleviate the problem. The federal government, the power bills are still going up, considering renewables that they're introducing are supposed to be the cheapest power around, and bills are supposed to come down. That's what I'm finding is
Mm,
the most of what comes out of the politicians and the councillors' mouths is all fluff and lies. They don't they don't really care. It's as long as these people aren't impacting the view of their town, like this town I'm in. We have a camp right on the edge of town. They're looking at closing that down to make it into an oval again, just because they think that people shouldn't see that as they come into the town.
yeah.
But where are these people going to go?
I don't understand where even as a I was trying to think there were times when I was working when I was in general duties. Um, and the council would get us, we'd have a lot of backpackers. Well, I was up in the far north. We'd have a lot of backpackers that would come and set up, um, and stay a week at a time in places they shouldn't. And it's funny
Yep,
because back then in the far north, there was plenty of places you could park, but some of these
yep,
backpackers would just make an absolute, pain. They were just, they were painful. And so your council would come along, but the thing is, they don't have a lot of actual powers. When you say powers, like that legal ability to do things. So if things would get kind of extreme, then they would get, okay, come and see us, or we need you to come and help us. They would say, well, we can actually do this, and we can give them a notice, and they can give them fines and whatever. Obviously, but their fines, realistically, at that time anyway, especially with backpackers, if they could just ignore them, they're going to leave the country, whatever, who cares? But
yep,
anything else progressed from there, they needed the police to back them up. So I never, it's been a long time since I did general duties. So I was reading this article the other day, and I was thinking, how do they get the authority to actually take their possessions? Which it seems extreme. It's I understand. Okay, if people are making a mess and just not respecting areas, but then to take someone's possessions off them, the very little things that they
yep.
own, oh,
That's it.
we're gonna threaten you with fines. We want you to move on. And by the way, your tent, the only thing that you have to protect you from the elements, we're now putting in the back of our bin. I sit there going, how's that legal? Do you know anything
Yep.
about that? Can you give us any insight about how they're doing that?
It's because it's mostly on Crown or council properties, parks and things like that. The council, as far as I know, do have the right to clean up, but to just throw it all into a skip and take it to the dump, when they know that this is these people's only possessions they own, it's hard to it is hard to understand how they do it, whether they've got a conscience. But I know the workers out there as well. Some of them don't like doing it because, but they've got to do it because, as with all jobs, you've got to do what the boss says, to an extent anyway. But yeah, these people, it's they steal from each other, or the ones who are on drugs and things like that. They get a lot of theft. Um, just of their items alone. They don't need the authorities coming and doing it as well. But I know the police don't like having to attend. We had one recently where a whole gazebo area near a public building was being occupied by a couple of homeless people, and it was starting to get a mess. And they were kicked out 3 times, but kept coming back. So it took the police. It had to take the police to come and remove them. So there's I know a lot of or quite a few of the officers in town don't like having to do it. They know what we do,
Mm.
what our organisation does, and so they help keep an eye on us. They do drive-bys when we're doing the street outreach in the evenings and things like that, which we really appreciate. But I don't see how these people um, need to have their stuff taken away from them.
Yeah. I've just brought up this photo.
Yep,
If you can see that, because I was reading this article
yep,
the other day, and what struck me about this photo, if you can see that, was I was looking at all these blokes here, and thinking, man,
yep.
this is. I don't know whether I'm just too far down the rabbit hole with conspiracies or what, but I was just looking at this photo, thinking, these look like to me military people, military police people. That's the kind of look I get. I looked at them going, wow, these aren't because the story goes that these are people from the council. But I was looking going, wow, they don't look like people from the council, any council that I've ever seen. They're all a similar age. They've all got a very similar look. Um,
Yeah,
it just, I don't know. Is that the kind of people you're seeing down there where you are who are removing?
not not to this extent. We're just seeing normal councillors or council workers in uniform, usually 2 or 3 at a time, come and just picking up the stuff and throwing it into the ute or the truck. It's not doesn't seem to be to such an extent as what's there. That it does look sort of very well orchestrated going by that. I can't see what's written on their high-vis vests from where I am,
Yeah, well, I was
but
just
it's
going from the article. So I wanted to bring it up. So this is again Moreton Bay Council. So
yeah,
this is on the last Wednesday. The council rangers and police officers began dismantling. The thing is, I was looking at
yeah,
this going, well, okay, police don't go and get dressed up. Police are police. Um,
yeah,
these aren't police uniforms. These are. I've never heard of council rangers. I've heard of, sorry, I shouldn't say that. The council rangers I'd heard of, generally, I thought were the only ones I knew of were out looking after forest areas and this kind of thing. But these
yeah.
council rangers that they've got, if these are council rangers, um, I don't know. They look a bit military to me.
Well, councils now have what they call rangers, are usually local enforcement officers, local laws enforcement officers,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
basically what Billboard Chris in Brisbane week and a half ago. That's who gave him the fine. It was a local laws enforcement officer, not a general council worker, and they are quite a few of them come from security backgrounds and things like that.
Yeah. So that's what struck me is how they all have this similar look, and I don't know. I tend to check out. I don't know if it's what you kind of have it you call it, but I suppose just because of the where I was working with police, I tend to check out the way, to me, the way people dress, um, So with some of the training that I did with surveillance and that, uh, not to go too much into this, but when we were doing counter training, CT training, counter surveillance training, and we'd work a lot with other groups. Let's put it that way, other groups. And but
Yep.
when you do, you check out the way people are dressed, and you could tell where people are from, who they were, where they were. You know, people are trying to get around, trying to look inconspicuous, but you'd look around and go, oh yeah, okay, that's there's some kind of military, police, they're an agency of whatever sort, and you can
Yeah.
spot people out by the way they're walking, they carry themselves, they hold themselves. And the whole idea is where the area where I worked is you don't want to be like that. You want to be the anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But so it's different. But I looked at this and thought, wow, it's different. If this is the kind of people for that they're doing for rangers, um, I don't know. It seems like maybe councillors. I don't know where council's going then. Are we going to be taking it out? We're going to have our own little private council's got their own little kind of private security, almost police force. Is that what they're looking at? Is that what I'm? Is that what I hear you saying?
I It wouldn't surprise me. It's they're starting to get so more into the litigant side of things and to the enforcement type of things. It's not just looking after people's rates and things like that now and roads and that. It's starting to really like some places. I was reading in Britain, in London, you throw a cigarette butt on the ground or a lolly wrapper, then they'll write you a fine there and then because there's these enforcement officers everywhere. They call them the cigarette butt police. But it's just, yeah, like if it's happening over in around the world, it's going to happen here.
If it's happening
And
in the
that's when
UK
they,
especially,
yeah,
we
well,
follow
we're
the
seeing it.
UK a lot of the time. But
That's
and I
it.
think it's always because I learnt well when you go through the academy you realize so I realized how tightly connected we are to the UK and following their laws
Yes.
and unfortunately
Well,
they're kind of going off a cliff face and we're going down the same route, which
yeah,
isn't
well,
good.
even getting back to the legislation in New South Wales with the conversion therapy, the praying and things like that.
Mm,
In the UK, Christians are being arrested for praying near abortion clinics or even praying on the street. And that's what this is basically. These new legislations are going to do. It's trying to stop the spread of Christianity or the actions of Christianity, but when it comes to other faiths, it's not. They're not included.
yep.
It's like in the UK again, you've every town has every week a couple of gazebos in the center of town advertising Islam and things like that. You have Muslims coming and putting their prayer mats on the ground and praying in the middle of the street when it comes to their prayer time during the day. But these new laws to say that a Christian cannot pray for someone who comes and asks them for prayer, that they've got to think, oh, well, I could spend 5 years in jail for this. That's just overstepping the mark. Now,
Mm.
my views are every single Christian, if someone comes to you needing prayer, wanting prayer, you pray for them. And I don't care who they are, because as a Christian, they they might be gay, they might be Buddhist, they might be Hindu or whatever. They are still a human being. They still are our brothers and sisters, and we are to love the person. That doesn't mean we have to agree with their faith or their whatever sins they've committed. We are still to love the actual person, and that's where prayer comes from. And to like, I'm reading right here from the Cauldron Pool story that, in other words, New South Wales government encourages individuals to come out and proudly identify as LGBTQA community, but some of them don't want to stay. They've realised, oh, that's not for me. I want to go back to the choice I had before. And if they want prayer or psychology, counselling, things like that, why are they now being kicked to the wolves, well, along with the people who are going to who want to help them? who
Yeah.
love them enough to help them because they don't want to meet the narrative anymore of what the governments want and that.
Yep.
So it's just, I don't understand it. Christianity is, they're trying to force it to take a back step in schools, basically anywhere. But I don't feel like, I love seeing street preachers out there with a megaphone or with a speaker and just reciting the Bible for people because that's what other faiths are doing. And why are we being subjected to the possible jailing, charging, fines for doing what our faith tells us to do out of love?
Well, other faiths are allowed to, it's not a coincidence that other faiths are allowed to do it, and yet
Exactly.
Christianity, sorry, making up my own words. Christianity is the only one that gets blackballed in those ways. But it's
Yeah.
similar to how Jesus is the only name that will be blasphemed,
Yep.
but nothing else. No one else, we
Yeah.
won't say, won't use whatever other
Yep.
deity as a swear word, but we'll use the name of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Well,
Um,
that's right. And people don't get fined for it and things like that. It's not classed as hate speech or religious vilification if people say OMG using the actual words.
yep.
That's yeah, I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's so Christianity. But then when you're a Christian, you realize, okay, and you read your Bible, you realize, okay, so these things are going to happen. They hated Jesus, they're going to hate us.
That's it.
You know, and that's the way it is. Hey, I was wondering, getting back to the other thing, the city of Moranbah. I can't talk straight today. Morton. And
More
this,
than, yep.
okay, so you've got this homeless woman. She, all this stuff's getting back thrown into a garbage truck, and you've got these rangers. She's saying, "Oh, it's depressing. Don't know where I'm going to go." They're just throwing it all in there. They've made camping illegal. So you've got these rangers doing all these things, um, and then talking about these conversion practices as well. I was thinking, I'm trying to go this area. Okay, so I was thinking about when everything was shut down during the COVID times. And we had
Yep.
people, police mainly, or police were visiting people in different areas, knocking on people, getting in trouble, getting fined for different things. People were ratting on their neighbors for having outdoor
Yeah.
events or whatever, or being outside, or all this kind of thing. However, police obviously, there's not enough of them to go around and do all these kinds of things. But I was just wondering, these council ranges. I wonder whether we're going to see more of these types of council ranges that, to me, look more like they're, like you said, they're from a security background, military background, um, getting hired to go out and do these types of investigations on behalf of councils who want to, okay, investigate homelessness or maybe even want to investigate hate speech, supposed alleged hate speech that's going on in churches. Um, and what's going to happen because I happen to think what happened a couple of times. I'm very suspicious of a couple of events that happened in the town where I am. Of the church, they had a couple of people visiting that were kind of stood out. They were out of place, and I'm talking back in the time frame when the lockdowns were happening. Church was
Yep.
open; they were allowed to open, that, but there were restrictions in this particular time, and so they had a couple of visitors. They kind of told me about later on that they had no idea what they were about. Just random people come into the church. They looked a little out of place. The people that I knew were like, they looked a bit strange, but they couldn't put their finger on it. Um, I'm just wondering if this is the kind of area where we're going to see from councils, like you said, because Billboard Chris, I noted that police passed Billboard Chris in Brisbane Council didn't, as far as I know, didn't say anything to him, just kept going. But it was council that
Yep.
sent out the ranger, you said, and they were the ones that passed the fine. Here you've got these
Yes.
rangers that are kicking out the homeless people, doing that work. They, to me, strangely have this look about them of a military background, I reckon. But then I'm wondering how. realistically, how people are going to find, other than someone dobbing on someone in church, saying, "Well, that's not right," and going out and saying, "Well, the pastor went and prayed for little Joey, who's come out and said he's having thoughts that aren't right, and so he's trying to convert him." Other than that, are we going to see possibly these council ranges? Is this where council's going? I suppose that's what I'm trying to get at. Is this where council's going, where they're going to be the ones who are enforcing the laws and getting into the nitty gritty, going down into the minutiae of what's going on in society? And so we've got these rangers getting out there, taking note, basically doing law enforcement on behalf of councils rather than just the state or federal police. What are your thoughts of that? Have you ever considered that, or am I just out of my mind here?
It's it's no, I don't think you are. It's anything that they do like that will be in their own interests. It won't be for the interests of the people, the constituents, anything like that. Yes, they will do it. There will be cases, there always will be, with people in churches dobbing each other in for, and that happened during COVID, people having home church services and things like that. And people were dobbing them in, but the police were actually, because it was a state government enacted thing, the police got involved in that. But councils, they seem to be forever broadening their local laws, um, their local law base that they can enact. And
Yeah,
yeah, it would not surprise me to see people out of place everywhere, like you do at rallies now, and even yeah, it's even in the outreach we get people that look out of place and just stand on the background. When we're dealing with 180 people on one night, we're getting these people that are too well dressed to be who we deal with
mm,
normally, and they're just standing back, or they're sitting in their car, just sort of just watching what's going on. And that is where I see it going. The same as you. It's going to happen. They want to. We're becoming more of an any state. They want to enact any law they can to make sure they have absolute control over what goes on. We're not allowed to have free thought or freedom of speech and that these days. Well, we haven't had freedom of speech for a long time. So, but it's yeah, they will enact things on us.
yeah, yeah. I only just started thinking about that, trying to, when I was reflecting on what happened during the COVID, like I said, and looking at it. Did strike me the other day when I was reading that article. I was looking at those guys. I thought, man, they're military, they're security something. They're not your average council kind of person.
No,
And then knowing what to do about police and the way police operate, it's yeah, yeah. Police have got all these other things to worry about, and even when you get into specialty areas and that, it's uh, you're hard pressed just sending off one or two just to observe things like that. Whereas council, yeah, and they've got less oversight. Council, for all the issues with policing and that, police are still state police have still got a lot of oversight, and obviously they adhere to laws because so much can happen. If they can't just flout laws. Everyone wants to record. If they get in trouble for it, they'll get screwed to the wall. Whereas
yep,
council seem to be a law unto themselves sometimes. Oh yeah, and like I said, I'm just wondering whether, hey, this is we've seen. I think we've seen more, and it wouldn't surprise me, more of council spying on things, spying on their own people, and I'm wondering whether, yeah, this is how they're going to bring it about with dobbing on people for the LGB, for the
yeah.
supposed conversion therapies that apparently go on everywhere. Where it could just be people praying. Oh, someone's sitting there in
Well,
the
look
council.
look at how many denominations now raise the rainbow flag inside their churches, and that they're going to be one of the groups, in my opinion, who will, if they see someone else from another church praying for someone who asks them to, they will be at the thick of it for doing the reporting, because they think that. yeah, they're just following the agenda of the governments. They're not following the um, the agenda of the Bible or of God. They're following the agenda of the governments
Mm.
and and members of society. So that's there's serpents everywhere around us. We just have to have the discernment to watch and to be aware of them.
Yep. Yep.
And sadly, that's in some churches as well.
Yeah. Yep. Very, very much. Hey, we're I'm running out of time here. It's going to
Yep.
get booted off this platform soon. But look, great first conversation, I think. Thanks very much for your input. Is there any way, anything that you want to put in? How do people, if people want to support, people want to reach out, people want to discuss anything with you, can you, how would people get in contact with you?
Well, I've got my YouTube channel, which is Man of Faith Ministry, and also my I have an email which people send me prayer requests and just if they want to chat about something, which is Man of Faith Ministries at outlook.com. And yeah, I get back to pretty much everyone who contacts me. It sometimes takes me a little bit of time because of the workload, but yeah, I will end up getting back to you in the long run. If you need to discuss things, um, if you just need to get something off your chest of what's happening in your area, especially in Queensland, Australia, just let me know. And then even in future, Jay and I may be able to discuss other topics which along those lines, which hopefully we can not solve the world, but help people, because that's what it's all about. Is we're all in this together. It's we're all under the same thumb as the person next door.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay. Mate, I just thanks very much for joining me today. It's a good conversation, great conversation. And
Thank you for having me on, Joe.
mate, my pleasure at all. And hopefully we can expand this a bit more and continue the discussions. Um, that's all I've got for today. Look, I just want to thank everyone out there for joining myself. I'm Jay Fallon from the Slippery Slope and Bryan Main from Man of Faith Ministries. We're both Queenslanders. Please, as I said, like and share. Check out Brian's work that he's doing, and I'd encourage anyone to support the work that they're doing. And thanks everyone for everything you've done for us. Like I said, like and share. I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to the Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher.